Hello everyone and welcome to another Premier League review supplemental. This time I'm going to be talking about all the roster moves, all the transfer activity that's been going on in the summer as we head towards another Premier League season. Some big changes indeed in the Prem, and ones that I expect to have a profound impact on the shape of the table as it finished last season. I'm going to try and go through these in some sort of approximate chronological order, but if I miss a few or it's not exact, I apologise. I have a tendency to go off on tangents. But let's just start with the news that Chelsea obviously got Pochettino coming in. The huge exodus they've had in terms of shifting out players they deem to be deadwood, combined with the Todd Boehly saying, look, okay, the fantasy's over for me, the reality's set in, I'm going to let Poch be fully in charge and I'm not going to interfere. I think that, combined with some astute signings, probably puts Chelsea back in among the top six. They're not going to have as bad a season as they had last season. One of those signings, again, another player coming off that RB Leipzig talent conveyor belt, which has, again, been prominent this summer, is Christopher Nkunku, who is someone that, at 25, is entering their prime years. Someone who has already had success in Germany. You know, in 172 games, he scored 70 goals, but also added 56 assists to that. He has won honours out there. He got a Player of the Season award, I think, in 2022. This is a very, very good signing, and he's coming in on a 6-year deal. And if you look at what Chelsea needed, Chelsea's problem was being able to stick it in the back of the net. It was, they could dominate possession, they couldn't do anything with it. You combine that with one or two errors at the back, you got a recipe for disaster. If you can't keep clean sheets and you can't score goals, doesn't matter what your reputation is, doesn't matter how big your squad is, doesn't matter how expensive your midfielders are. You know, there's some fundamentals about the game that are never going to change. This is a huge step in the right direction for Chelsea. To pick this player up, I think, is really going to change their shape. They brought in another striker as well, which we'll talk about. I'm less excited about that, to be fair, but anybody that has followed like the Bundesliga or just follows international football, they know who Nkunku is. He is a player that's going to fit into the pace of the Prem, no problem as far as I see it. And Chelsea have certainly, in this transfer window, addressed the issues that they had. Now, another one that we didn't really talk about a lot, but is kind of interesting, is Tielemans. Now, look, I got my thoughts about the Leicester players that have left Leicester after basically getting them relegated. One of the things I hate, and I'm sure you know if you listen to the podcast regularly, one of the things I hate, players that have lackluster seasons with their teams, they don't necessarily shine individually, or they don't go out there and grab games by the scruff of the neck and take over the game and somehow drag out a result for their team, and then the team gets relegated or narrowly survives on the last day of the season. When those players get to walk away, and they get to walk away to pastures new, and everyone's excited about them, and they give like a fake farewell to the club, like, oh, gonna miss you guys, oh, it's just so bloody hard to leave. And it's like, no, let's be real. You phoned it in at a time when the club needed you, safe in the knowledge, because you've been talking to your agent the whole time, you got transfer options ahead of you. And Tielemans was just one of those players who, you know, it was clear they were already out at Leicester. Their contracts were coming down. I think Tielemans had been great for Leicester. You don't get into the Belgian side without being good. Obviously, he's a good pickup. He's a very, very good player. There was interest from Arsenal not that long ago. Him going to Aston Villa is a huge coup for Villa, in my opinion. I mean, Unai Emery's Villa were revelatory in the second half of the season. They really kicked up the table and got among it when nobody gave them a lot of hope for doing that, and they looked completely transformed from the Gerrard years. Unai Emery was one of those managers who is a master tactician. He was done dirty by Arsenal and was always better than that run at Arsenal suggested. Now we're starting to see he's also got a great sort of conceptualization for what he wants his teams to do. It's why he was able to turn Ollie Watkins round and turn him into the form striker in England pretty much, coming again when they had that miracle run. But what they did lack was just a little bit of creativity, somebody that can get into space, somebody that can dictate the pace of the game with the ball at their feet, somebody that can distribute passes, and Tielemans is going to be that guy for Villa. I think him coming in, when you look at some of the other midfield options they have at Villa, he's going to be a clear standout, a clear starter week in, week out, assuming he maintains his fitness. And this is an excellent free transfer. I'm sure he got the bag as well as part of the move. I was a little bit surprised that it was Villa that won his signature, especially when he'd been talked about with multiple bigger name teams. But this guy's going to go down. I think it was a bit of like he's destined to be a bit of a folk hero. I think Villa, they're the sleeper team to watch next season. There's always like one team that pops out, like Brighton or Brentford. I think Villa are going to be that team that are going to really surprise some people next season, because that form that they had was just about a fundamental tactical approach to the game that they're not only going to be able to employ next season, but they're also going to do it with better personnel. So this is an excellent signing, no matter what I think about the sort of fundamental tastelessness of some of the performances towards the end of his Leicester tenure. Also, I mean, just as an aside, it's not a signing, it's not a transfer, but the club captain, Villa, McGinn, he also signed a contract extension with Aston Villa. He was one of Villa's best players last season, unquestionably. And so now with Tielemans coming in, McGinn committing his future to the club, yeah, good time to be a Villa fan, actually. You gotta hand it to them. This was a surprise signing. I wasn't expecting to talk a lot about Bournemouth, but man, do I feel old. They were able to sign the son of Patrick Kluivert. So obviously Patrick Kluivert did play briefly for Newcastle. He'll always be the legend from Ajax for me. One of the great Dutch, strikers. And man, his kid's 24 now. Like, fuck, I'm ancient. And he signed for Bournemouth, and I'm very excited to see what Justin Kluivert can do. Bournemouth definitely pulled it out at the end. New manager, new start. Bournemouth are going to be okay again next season, and this is a super interesting signing. Justin plays as a winger. He has already proven that he can handle it in La Liga. And obviously, I think he's been at the Leipzig team as well. Nobody gets in that team unless they can play. He played at Valencia, I think, most recently. And he's somebody that, look, is he going to be an amazing immediate standout in the Prem at 24? Having moved around a lot, who really knows? But he is already showing he can deliver statistically at top flight level. And so for him to get picked up by a team like Bournemouth, this is actually savvy. These are the kind of savvy signings, the kind of opportunity signings that a lot of the smaller clubs have to make in the Premier League. You've always got the allure of playing in the Prem. It is the best league in the world. I see comments in the YouTube, week in, week out, people are going, oh, lol, like La Liga is better. It's not. The Prem is the best league in the world until this Super League happens, which, spoiler, all of that Saudi spending is a precursor to it. Be prepared. But these are the kind of smart, savvy signings that you expect a team like Bournemouth to have to make to get in it. And he's going to be, a guy that I think is definitely one to watch. I think he's going to give Bournemouth an extra dimension. I thought that they lacked a little bit of creativity in the flanks. And I think having a natural gifted winger will give them that extra dimension, for Iriola's team and the way he likes to play. It's going to be a good outlet for them. He's going to get a lot of the ball. He's going to have a chance to show what he can do in the Premier League. And at 24, lots of upside. So definitely a signing to keep an eye on. And a very surprising top quality move there from Bournemouth. Over at City, somebody departs. Gundogan Now, Gundogan, he was like a mighty morphin fucking Power Ranger at the end of last season. He turned into like the best midfielder in the world for about 10 games. It was ridiculous, his contribution that he gave to City down the home straight. But we've talked about this a lot. And obviously when players are in that 30 to 32 range, they get one more big move to make the bag and an opportunity to join Barcelona at his age, at 32. I get it. I get why he's leaving, and I also get why City are allowing him to leave. But Gundogan, he was Guardiola's first signing when he brought him in back in 2016. And I think a lot of people didn't realise, like what they were getting or how good he could be. I think in general in the Prem there was a little bit of ignorance back then about what the Bundesliga was doing and how that the big teams were essentially like, they were creating these almost like complete footballers. I think the average British fan just saw it as like a farmers league, and that was kind of the end of it. Now people are seeing this insane procession of talent because they're reaping the dividends of having these super advanced training, methods and schemes, and all these players have been coming out of the Bundesliga for years, and now people recognise it as being one of the great talent incubators in the way that, Dutch football kind of was, maybe in like the 90s. And so, Gundogan wasn't the signing at City. Everyone was kind of like, oh, this is going to be, this is what we're all about. But Gundogan was, an immediate hit with the fans. He won them over very quickly. Always worked hard, always pulled out performances in big games. I think it's a loss, honestly. It's one of those where it's like, this is the time to leave, but it's kind of a shame that you're not going to see Gundogan in a City shirt next season, because I think he's got another 2 years of, if he could maintain the form that he had at the end of the season, it would be a no-brainer to keep him. I guess there's question marks around that, but I think he'll go over very well at Barcelona. I think he'll love the pace of La Liga, the way that Barcelona play, and wishing him well. He was a great addition to the Prem, and a great servant to Manchester City for sure. Going to be missed. Next up on my notes, let's talk about Spurs. It's been a bit of a weird transfer window for them. Let's start with Maddison joining from Leicester, another one of these players who had the Leicester exodus. I mean, he was linked with Newcastle repeatedly during last season. People thought he was going to leave in the transfer window. I mean, the rumours were Leicester rejected 60 mil. I don't know how accurate that was, but that was on the back pages of a few newspapers, and that they were holding out for more. And now they've got relegated, need the money. Obviously, Maddison ain't going to stick around, and he's gone for 40 million to Spurs. So how do I feel about this? I mean, I think 40 mil is a fucking steal. They've managed to get a player that is worth 40 million. He's a very good creative midfielder, England international. He's on the periphery of being in the squad, gonna travel, gonna get his caps, and was a standout player for Leicester. I saw, there were some people saying, oh, he's missed, his commitment can't be questioned. I watched a couple of games last season where it looked like he was either playing with a knock or wasn't quite going as hard as you would want. So a few question marks there, but I would have loved if he had joined Newcastle. I would have been totally okay with that. I would have been okay with it at 60 mil. I think he's a bit of a steal for Spurs at 40 mil. And, as I said, endlessly on Prem Review all last season, man alive, what Spurs needed was some creativity in that midfield. It just wasn't there. There wasn't anybody that could get the ball, beat a man. There wasn't anybody that could, identify a run early enough to really create more chances. Spurs did all of their best work when their front three got to essentially press and play with the ball in the gap between midfield and defence, and sort of, Harry Kane in space, Son running at you. This is how Spurs won their games when they popped off and were scoring 4 or 5 goals. When they struggled was if the forwards couldn't keep the ball, if you were up against a team with a very good compact midfield, there wasn't anybody that could create and open that space. Now, Maddison's record speaks for itself at Leicester. 163 games, 43 goals, 32 assists. He is certainly going to change the way Spurs play and give them this extra dimension. I'm actually interested to see whereabouts they're going to use him, because he is versatile. You know, you can play him wide, you can play him through the centre. I almost think you could play him behind a striker if you needed to. Obviously, tactically, we don't know how Spurs are going to shape up because they've got a new manager coming in as well. It's going to be very interesting, especially with Richarlison probably being the flop of last season. What happens there? Does a new manager give him a fresh opportunity, or does a new manager just want to cut the kind of team's losses? Who knows? But Maddison is a great pickup for Spurs. Certainly a player that the type of player they needed. And look, Maddison needs to stay in the Prem. I'm intrigued at his development and whether or not he can be somebody that can go on to feature for England on a more regular basis. 10 goals in 30 games. With 9 assists last season. He's clearly got in a failing team. You know, the numbers don't lie. So Maddison is a great pickup. What's more interesting at Spurs has been this long-standing saga with their goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris. Now, Hugo Lloris has publicly said he wants out at Spurs. I don't think it's official he's gone, but all the indications are that he might be leaving. I think there was an interview where he said, quote, he desires for other things. He's 36. He's retired from international duty. I think he's on a 1-year extension. This would be his last year at Tottenham anyway. And I got to say, Lloris's fall from grace was very sudden. Start of last season, Hugo Lloris is probably one of the best goalkeepers, you know, that's how you think of him, one of the best goalkeepers in world football. Made a number of mistakes. Yes, the Tottenham defence is shaky. Yes, the midfield doesn't protect that shaky defence. You are going to get called on as a keeper. But he made mistakes that directly led to goals that, if David De Gea was doing it, it would be on the back pages all week. And Lloris, I think, because of his stellar record was, and obviously what France had done at the World Cup, he was insulated a little bit from a lot of the criticism, I believe, but that's just my perception. I think ultimately he went from being somebody who was considered Mr. Reliable to actually quite shaky. And so it doesn't surprise me to see Spurs looking at goalkeepers this summer, and they picked up one, a chap called Guillermo Vicario from Empoli. Now, the name might not jump out at you. You might go, oh, well, sounds like he's going to be an understudy. He can't be the main guy. Well, he just got called up to the Italian squad end of last year. He's 26. He had a couple of, you know, huge, like, standout seasons at Empoli where people were like, this is a great young goalkeeper. And he's come a long way. There's, like, actually a story about how, like, at one point in his career, he was signed for, like, I think the headlines were signed for the price of a PlayStation. He was signed on a permanent contract for about 500 euros at some point in his career. He's had this, like, meteoric rise, and Tottenham have wasted no time bringing him in, and that suggests to me Lloris is going, that actually Vicario is going to be the guy that is going to be in between the sticks. You know, they've given him number 13, but I think, he's going to be the guy that is going to be in nets for Tottenham at the start of next season. And I'm very interested. I think that is a super interesting signing, actually, because who knows how he's going to cope. You know, we've seen before with things like the Kepa signing at Chelsea, sometimes these goalkeepers that are earmarked for greatness, it can all be over very quickly. Goalkeepers have got one of the maddest jobs in all of football. It's actually insane. Couple of mistakes and you're done. You get the jitters and you can't play. Think about Karius and stuff like that. So, anyway, a couple of good signings at Spurs. Got to say hats off to them. I'd like to see more of an exodus, more deadwood going out from Spurs, because they've definitely got a lot of players that are on basically, you know, they're not fit to wear the shirt, in my opinion. But we'll wait and see. City jumped in. Obviously, we talked about Gundogan going out. They jumped in and took advantage of the Chelsea exodus. They brought in Kovacic. I think this one surprised a lot of people. 29 years old. I think I'm surprised Chelsea deemed him to be one of the players they wanted to let go in the summer. I think, Pochettino, I get it. He's going to have his own ideas. Might want a fresh start. Kovacic is a Chelsea caliber player and should be starting for Chelsea. I mean, he's got fantastic quality, and he's been there, 5 seasons at Chelsea. He's part of the fabric. Not the type, nearly 100 caps for his country. Not the type of player that you would sort of say, okay, we want to get rid of him. Maybe 3 years from now, 32. Very energetic player, hard worker, and I can see why, as Gundogan goes out. I don't know if Kovacic is going to be straight into the City team. That's a hell of a thing to climb. But if he does get to play, he's certainly the type of player City are going to enjoy having in there, and somebody that's capable of winning the ball, running with the ball, high tempo, certainly going to fit into the Pep system very quickly, I imagine. So whether or not he is deemed reputationally big enough to be able to get those opportunities, that's one thing. But he is a fantastic squad signing, and I think they picked him up for it was nothing, like 25 mil or something, I think. So just wow. Great, that's a great bit of business. Chelsea definitely come up behind on that one for me. Another Chelsea exodus signing. And this one I don't like. Effusive in my praise about a lot of the business that's been done in the summer really makes me feel we're going to get another great season with lots of teams in the mix for that top 4. But this is weird. Arsenal signing Kai Havertz from Chelsea. I don't get this move. I don't think... For me, what Arteta needs is what they're going to get with Declan Rice, an authoritative midfield, midfield general that can win the ball and distribute the ball. Somebody that can break up play. They need that, especially because of personnel they got going out. We'll talk about that in a second. But what they also needed was, for me, a clinical strike option for when Gabriel Jesus is struggling and you don't want to put all your eggs in the Eddie Nketiah basket. Kai Havertz is not that guy. Kai Havertz, when they announced him, they said, we keep moving forward. Kai Havertz is a gunner. Kai Havertz ain't a fucking forward. Kai Havertz looked woeful. They were playing him as a lone striker last season in this mad Chelsea, Dr. Frankenstein lineup of 500 wingers and one dude who really wants to be a winger. His runs into the box were diabolical in striking terms. They were late or telegraphed too early. He was a defender's dream. Any high-quality centre-back can handle Kai Havertz. He doesn't have the physicality to go skin-to-skin with a centre-back. And so with that... But, he's a solid midfield player. He is somebody that can find space in the wide areas, space in the box or making a run off someone's shoulder. Completely different discipline. You want to see how you do that expertly. You watch what Haaland does, and then you compare that to what Kai Havertz was doing as the tip of a very blunt Chelsea spear last season. And Kai Havertz didn't impress me as a forward at all. And I think to the point where I would be like, he's just a midfielder, actually. He might be willing to give it a try. I'd give it a try. What does that say? So, yeah, I'm not convinced about this signing at all. I don't think it's what they need. I think Trossard was actually underutilized last season. And so thinking about Kai Havertz purely through the lens of a midfielder, a very strange signing for me. And not one that was a cheap signing. He's 24. That's fine. He's young. You might be able to do something with him over time, teach him some stuff. Maybe the Arsenal total football approach will bring out the best in him. But this to me was almost a desperation signing. It doesn't feel like a good, solid Arsenal have a plan signing for me. And I know a lot of Gooners, they're feeling the opposite. They think this is some sort of mastermind signing. I'm not vibing with that at all. So yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. Now, I did say Chelsea had signed another striker. This one I'm less excited about. It's a 22-year-old called Nicholas Jackson. He comes from Villarreal, already a Senegalese international. Already you're going, oh, okay, all right, this should be interesting. But there's a few things about this player which I think this is more filling out the squad. He got 12 goals, 4 assists in 26 games. That's all right, actually. That makes it sound that he's amazing, right? Like, oh, shit, wow, okay, we're getting a very solid player. He nearly joined Bournemouth last season. The deal fell through because he couldn't get through his medical. There was hamstring issues there. And at 22, to sort of not just be able to rock up in the middle of a season to a Premier League club that are just desperate to get quality in because Bournemouth was struggling at that time, and just ace your medical, to be having like knocks and pulls and strains. Yeah, I don't know. Like that immediately makes me worry. I think as well, the idea of him as sort of a pure striker and someone that's going to lend like firepower to Chelsea. I think in Nkunku you're getting that. I don't know if they'll want to go 2 up. And so for me, this feels like a squad signing, young, develop him, bring him along, play him in the League Cup kind of signing. Yeah, I don't think this is like great. But of course, look, the thing with young players is they get better so quickly, and when you're dealing with Premier League coaching, Premier League development, and just playing in the Prem and realising the rigours and what you have to do to get on the team sheet week in, week out, it does push players to be their best. And look, compared to last season, any striker Chelsea sign is going to be amazing. Like, he would have walked into the team last season regardless of anything I think about his form or underlying injury potential or whatever. But he is someone that is clearly on the up, but Premier League, it's fine playing at Villarreal. It's fine dunking on some of the teams in the bottom half of La Liga and looking really good against them. In the Prem, it's a lot tougher, and so we will see. Not really, like, I don't want to say question marks about the move, but I'm not feeling like it's a coup like some of the Chelsea fans. This one, I don't get it. I don't know what happened. My beloved Conor Coady. My beloved Conor Coady. If you listen to this podcast, I fucking love Conor Coady. I would have had Conor Coady at Newcastle in a heartbeat. I still would. Conor Coady for me is like the forgotten man of the Premier League. Like, I don't understand it. He has left Wolves, former club captain, 300 appearances at Wolves, found himself on loan at Everton. That was the best thing Lampard did in his time at Everton, in my opinion. I thought Conor Coady was like him and Tarkowski had just... They were a solid centre-back pairing. And by the way, go look at the stats for Tarkowski. He was sick. Him and Conor Coady at Everton, I was like, oh, this is great. This is like, they're going to stay up just on that basis. And he goes back to Wolves at the end of the season and then immediately goes to Leicester. So he's going to be in the Championship. Like, he's not even in the Prem anymore. Like, Conor Coady, he's clearly good enough to be in the Prem. Like, it's bonkers. I'm very surprised. I don't know what happened with him and Lopetegui. I don't know what happened there, but like something must have happened, because I think Conor Coady should be getting the game. Like, I mean, for real. Like, there were some times at Wolves where I remember they shipped a fuck ton of goals. So surely Conor Coady could have been deemed worth something. I mean, when Nuno was at Wolves, he was a mainstay. I think he only missed like 1 game when he was there or something insane. So I mean, look, it's great. It is crazy to me. Conor Coady's out at Wolves and no Prem team wants him. But, whatever, I guess. Liverpool, remember, they've got the big midfield rebuild on. So when you want a shit-hot young player that's going to, potentially transform your team, obviously you got a Leipzig, and they brought in Hungarian Szoboszlai. Now, he is someone that is very, very impressive. Guy's got highlight
videos all over YouTube. Obviously, Hungary played England, and Szoboszlai was part of that team and looked really, really good. He's 22. He's already been capped 32 times. He's already got 7 goals. He is going to be sick. Like, he is going to be an amazing signing, I think. It shows to me as well that Klopp, who came in for a lot of criticism, especially in the middle part of the season where Liverpool looked done, and I was obviously party to that criticism as well. For me, Klopp understands. He understands what has to be done in terms of building up that midfield and just adding a bit of dynamism into it. Like, they had an old aging midfield, and they still got some names that I think you're going to have to cut loose. Ultimately, this is the kind of exciting signing that you want. You add that to Alexis McAllister. Whoo-hoo! It's spicy. This is a fucking spicy Liverpool midfield. I mean, those two players. Like, by the way, there was I can't remember who it was. There was someone on TalkSport or something. One of the pundits, they're all the same. They all talk bollocks. And one of them was saying they didn't think Szoboszlai could walk into the Liverpool team. And I'm like, did you watch a fucking Liverpool game last season? Did you see how static and stagnant and slow and ineffective their midfield was? Like, Jesus. So, yeah, I really am excited about this. It's only the second signing they made, but they only really need maybe 1 or 2 more, Liverpool. They still got a fantastic squad. Remember, the best is yet to come from Núñez. So, yeah, I think this is fantastic. I'm very, very happy about this. Going to be great to see Szoboszlai in the Prem. And then Newcastle. Obviously, as I've explained multiple times, I can never give another penny to my beloved Newcastle. I'm going to enjoy one last season of European football and then go and support Blythe Spartans or something. But for this season, let me just enjoy the news that we've signed Sandro Tonali from AC Milan. What a signing. Like, this is great. I was super worried because Eddie Howe, and it's still happening, Eddie Howe, like, I know he's the player whisperer. Eddie Howe can do no wrong. Eddie Howe turned Joe Linton into a competent footballer somehow. Like, so, trust me, Eddie Howe, I've got a lot of faith in his ability to coach players. But when I'm seeing that we're being linked to, like, Harry Maguire, it puts me on suicide watch, guys. So, there's limits. There's limits. You're not a magician, Eddie Howe. We were linked with some very dubious names in midfield. Man United, the little Scottish lad, and fucking, just terrible players. And I was like, oh, Christ, please, no. And then, because that's the area where, now that St. Maximin has been found out, McTominay, sorry, was his name, the little Scottish fella at United, but whatever. Anyway, now that St. Maximin has been found out and is really struggling for end product, and Willock is not the guy he was in a failing Steve Bruce team and looks on, there is room for someone to come alongside Bruno and basically just boss our midfield for us. And Tonali is that man. Like, this guy is great. Already was very well regarded. I mean, the Milan fans are very sad to see him go. He is one of those players who he gets in. He's been compared to Gattuso. A lot of people say he's like going to be the spiritual successor to Gattuso. I think he's actually got a bit more about him than that. I think he is more creative and better on the ball than Gattuso. But yes, he does have that same tenacity, that same willingness to go into a tackle, that same willingness to chase and never give anything up. That was Gattuso was so famous for that. But Tonali, already an Italian international, has been for years. He's 23, coming off the back of a Champions League semi-final run. So that's what we need, because Newcastle have got Champions League football to think about now. So this is why, when you're talking about McTominay and Maguire, it makes me physically ill to even say their name. We needed some quality and some class, and we still do. I think we need another striker. We definitely need another defender. And so, yeah, let's watch this space, But Tonali is like, that's a marquee signing for me. I'm ecstatic about that, and I think everyone who enjoys good football, people are really going to enjoy him in the Premier League. Next up, United. Man United. This is one, you know what? Hashtag not my player, but within the sort of context of where United are, this is probably a good sign. So look, Manchester United have courted Mason Mount for some time, and he joins, and it's like 55 million, I think, in total, coming in from Chelsea. Another, like, it's mad. Like, look at all the players Chelsea have been selling. Mason Mount, for me, I actually think Mason Mount is overrated. So just cards on the table. I think Mason Mount is a very overrated player. I think within Premier League terms, I think he just benefits from the classic bias. He's English and he's, very good, but they talk about him like he's brilliant. And that is not the reality when I watch Mason Mount play football. But here's what's been going on at United. It was reported that United only had 120 million to spend. That is fuck all. And as we're about to get to, they needed a goalkeeper. They definitely needed someone in midfield. So Mason Mount coming in is essentially, Eriksen was better than I thought he was going to be, but still looked like a player that was just, there's all issues, like obviously we all know what happened to him and stuff, so I'm not trying to be too harsh. But I think he got like 9 assists for the season. That's like, and a goal, great. But as a direct upgrade for Eriksen, I think, yes, okay, Mason Mount makes sense in United. And if they, they clearly want to persevere with, the Fred McTominay as an option to come in and add some steel in the centre mid. But like the idea of like Mason Mount and Casemiro together in the centre of the park, that actually, it is an upgrade for United. There's no getting away from that reality. And it's an astute signing on that basis. And I suppose when you factor in England tax and how much it could have been, maybe 55 mil isn't all that bad. I mean, put it this way. As a direct comparison, I think Tottenham getting Maddison for 40 represents better business than if they'd gone out and bought Mason Mount for 55, 60. But with what United need and the type of player Mason Mount is, maybe it's a better fit. I don't know. But I'm not a huge fan. I think Mason Mount is better off the ball than he is on it. And I think with a combination of like Casemiro and him in the centre of the park, they're certainly both of them. I mean, Casemiro's on another planet, but I mean, like Mason Mount offers a bit more as well, like in terms of just elegance and ability than the other players. So I'm sure there'll be comments down below saying that I'm like massively underestimating Mason Mount and being, I'm totally off about him. But he never won me over. He never won me over for England. He never won me over at Chelsea. I just thought he was like, you could see he's a very good player. You can see Premier League quality, but nothing special. Not the way he gets talked about in the papers, And then obviously the other big thing at United is De Gea has gone out. That is wild. That it's kind of come to an end in the nature it did. It was clearly acrimonious. From the moment Ten Hag got to United, De Gea's can't do what Ten Hag wants his goalkeeper to do. He wants his goalkeepers to be able to play out from the back, to have good solid distribution, and to be, good under pressure when the ball's played back to them. That's what he needed. And De Gea, time and time again, failed the tests. De Gea is a shot stopper, amazing. De Gea is a member of the pantheon of great United keepers. He's up there, of course he is. But Ten Hag has his ways, and Ten Hag is the man, and he gets what he wants, and De Gea just can't live up to what Ten Hag wants. It's that simple. De Gea was sort of publicly doing yawning emojis and stuff on Twitter saying that his contract talks had stalled. For him to just walk away from the club is crazy. And it looked like it's ended without a lot of fanfare. It doesn't look to be a particularly happy split. De Gea will always be a United legend. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But I definitely think it is time to look in a new direction for long-term solutions for your goalkeeper. I think much like Tottenham, there's some similarities here. You have to bite the bullet and go with a player that is more reliable and fits the style of play that you want to go with. And so transpires that I thought Pickford was a lock. I thought Pickford was 100% going to be the lock for United. I really thought he was going to get the move from Everton. But for whatever reason, that has gone completely cold. And now the big talk is Onana coming in. And he is probably going to make up almost the rest of the transfer budget. Onana has been someone who obviously has really, really stood out at Inter. Just played in the Champions League final. It looks to be exactly what Ten Hag wants in a goalkeeper. And now, with De Gea leaving, they're in that position, aren't they? Where it's like, okay, we definitely need a new goalkeeper now. For Onana to be valued as high as 55, 60 mil in that Mason Mount territory is crazy. But the De Gea situation, where, as I said, his contract's just expiring and nobody really knows what's going on there. We're assuming he's left. The reality is that Inter know Ten Hag wants his man, and they know that he thinks Onana is his man. I don't know why the Pickford thing went so cold so quick when he was talked up as being the next United keeper pretty much all of last season, but that's that. And so Onana, at the time of recording this, they're saying, he's, they've upped their bid, they've upped their interest. It looks like he's going to be joining United. It looks to be a done deal. So fair enough. If they do make that signing at that price, that's pretty much the end of it for United. They don't have, there's not a lot of commitment from the board to improving the overall quality of this team. And I still think they need a lights out striker. United. Otherwise, they might struggle to get top four again. Last one to talk about. I talked about it earlier. Obviously, at the time of recording this, it's not confirmed, but probably by the time you're listening to it, it will be. Declan Rice going to Arsenal. I think 105 mil is where it settled on in the end. Man City came in and somewhat sneakily made a couple of bids, but Declan wanted to stay in London apparently, and that's what swung it. I don't know. I think City didn't really care about winning that transfer. They just wanted to put the money out there to essentially force Arsenal into making larger bids than what they would have had to do. And I got my thoughts about Declan Rice. I've said it. I think he's a bit of a fraud. You will notice, by the way, look, we've all got our biases in football. I am super critical of all the English players, I guess, because they get so much praise in the press, and their valuation, their overall value is just so massively overhyped compared to comparative players you'll find in Europe. I mean, again, all of these unbelievably talented footballers coming off for example, the Leipzig talent conveyor belt, and they're being talked about for a fraction of the price that the average England player is. No more ridiculous than Phillips's move from Leeds to City. And so it's nonsense. That the idea that Declan Rice is a £105 million player is ridiculous. That is the quintessential example of England tax. City got in there and definitely helped push it up. But he's a good signing for Arsenal. He's what they need. It looks like Partey's going to leave. And obviously, you have to look at it through this lens. Xhaka has left Arsenal. He's going to be joining Bayer Leverkusen. And I'm a bit sad about this, I got to say. I thought Xhaka was very important in terms of what he gave Arsenal in the run that they had. Yeah, they capitulated at the end of the season. That's one of those things. But I genuinely thought Xhaka made a great contribution. Obviously, he lost the captain's armband, all of that brouhaha, got made vice-captain. He was a leader on the pitch. You could see that, pulling people round in a circle, telling them, right, let's have this, let's do this. He was fully committed to the cause. Yeah, he's a red card waiting to happen on his most relaxed day. Yeah, he can have a cup of chamomile tea and get into a fucking fist fight, this fella. But you need that sometimes at your club, and Xhaka would bleed for the cause. And, Declan Rice, I don't think he's got the same steel in him as Xhaka. I'll be frank. Xhaka would run through a brick wall for you. I think Declan Rice will run up to a brick wall and then, do an elegant pirouette off it. Just kidding. So I don't know. I think Zach he was an old school kind of footballer in that sense, a throwback. And sometimes you just need that in a team. You just need a destroyer. They got a decent amount of money for him. All things considered, he goes for about 22, which definitely makes the pain of the 105 you're paying for Declan Rice a little bit easier to swallow, because if you got Declan Rice at 75, 80, you're probably feeling all right about it. Maybe not me, but most normal people. And so, look, I think, Arsenal, they just need a little bit more. But it's maybe defence, because you saw what happened when Saliba went out. But I think we're in. So far, so good. I mean, obviously, we've got like another month of silly season. Expect more crazy signings. There's probably a few I've left out. But at the end of the day, I think we're in for an interesting season. I think there are definitely teams that are making overall improvements in quality. We have seen a bigger influx in terms of overall quality players coming into the top teams. Lots of deadwood going out. And I feel that, City, they were all conquering last season. It should theoretically be a little bit tougher for them this season in the Prem, but we'll wait and see. And obviously, they've undoubtedly got signings of their own to make. So those are my thoughts. A bit of a long one this time. I'll be back next time, probably in a few weeks, once we've had a few more transfers come in with another Prem review. So until then, take care of yourselves. Bye.